It started with a noise so loud it shook the scarecrow off his pole. A sleek silver helicopter wobbled over my barn like a drunk dragonfly, skidded down my private runway as if on ice, and whooshed straight into my corn. Corn flew, blades spun, champagne sprayed, and out climbed one furious woman in a coral blazer yelling, who put slippery paint on the runway. That was Evelyn Hart, 60 years old and president of the neighboring HOA, self-crowned queen of all things suburban and shiny. She'd been using my private airstrip without asking. I couldn't help but grin. Because I'm Colin Mercer, retired engineer, and that runway, Mercer Field, is mine. When I bought this place 20 years ago, my only traffic was crows and the occasional lost delivery truck. I built a clean 2,000-foot strip for the crop dusting days, got FAA clearance, every permit, and hung a sign, private use, Mercer Field. That sign used to mean something. Then Evelyn Hart arrived with her brand new gated kingdom, Brookstone Reserve, half a mile east, golf carts, glossy newsletters, and more rules than scripture. It started small. A man in a neon vest paced my fence with a clipboard. Surveying for the HOA's extended recreation boundary, he said. I pointed him back toward Brookstone Reserve. A week later, a sign sprouted beside my mailbox, future site of Brookstone. Landing, private jet access for residents. I laughed, until strange tire marks showed up on my runway and a sleek Cessna dropped in at dawn. Out filed board members in polos and heels, led by Evelyn Hart with a clipboard and a smile that could slice wire. Mr. Mercer, she cooed, we're testing the airstrip for investors. You'll be compensated. You mean trespassing, I said. She lifted her chin. The new county overlay shows a shared amenity zone. Property values rise when you cooperate. That night I called Deputy Cole Baker, an old friend. He scratched his chin. If they land without permission, that's trespassing, and unauthorized aircraft use. But if a county doc says otherwise, it gets messy. Messy is their specialty. Rumor said Evelyn's brother sat on zoning. Surprise, surprise. Soon my airstrip turned circus. Flyers promised private air access minutes from the clubhouse. SUVs rolled up, guests snapped photos, and I found champagne corks in the grass. Every confrontation with Evelyn was the same, soft voice, faux concern, veiled threat. You'll be part of something bigger, she'd purr. I already am, I'd say. It's called my own land. I called my mechanic from the old days, Rafa Ortega. He crouched over the rubber burns. They've landed a dozen times, and they're sloppy, he said. Maybe remind them they're on your dirt. I started documenting everything, every landing, every glossy invite, every smug pull quote in the HOA newsletter. I hid trail cams as fence posts aimed at the strip. The footage was gold. HOA members clinking glasses on my property, guests posing, private landing for brunch, thanks, Brookstone, even Evelyn cutting a red ribbon across my asphalt like christening a yacht. One afternoon I found her directing a crew installing portable runway lights, on my soil. Planning a light show. I called. Safety, Evelyn sang. You wouldn't want anyone hurt. Then stop. Landing on private property, I said. Her smile froze. The board voted unanimously this runway benefits the community. Funny, I said. Last I checked, I'm the community here. She laughed that hollow laugh. You'll come around. Everyone does. I pulled county records. The amenity zone was a decades-old draft, never approved. She had nothing, and she didn't care. So I stopped arguing. I planned, quietly and precisely. My goal wasn't revenge, it was proof. The day she announced her Brookstone Landing Aviation Social, complete with photos of my barn and promises of exclusive Private landings, I smiled and said nothing. The morning of the spectacle looked like a suburban carnival. Tents, catering trucks, banners, Brookstone Landing grand opening. At 9 a.m. A white jet kissed down to applause. Evelyn in a sun hat performed like she owned the sky. Rafa leaned on my fence. You gonna stop this? Not yet, I said. Let her dig. By noon I'd counted 3. Landings, 2 drone guys, 1 pilot who wanted to disappear. Evelyn finally spotted me. Isn't this magnificent? She trilled. 1 word, I said. Illegal. Her smile flickered. We have lawyers. I have cameras, I said. After dark I walked the runway with a flashlight, oil stains, broken glass, skid marks. The next day I posted a new sign, private property, no air access. Trespassers will be reported. It vanished by morning. I replaced it. Gone. The third sign had a camera. At 6:45 a.m., there was Evelyn, in gardening gloves and sunglasses, yanking it up like a weed. And tossing it into her trunk. I laughed. All right, Queen, I said to the empty road. Class is in session. Then came her biggest stunt yet, a helicopter showcase for HOA members. Same coordinates as Mercer Field. Dawn broke crisp. Rafa parked beside me. Remember, he said, stay cool. Let them hang themselves. SUVs rolled in, linen suits and giant sunglasses. Evelyn sashayed over. So glad you're here to support the community, Mr. Mercer. I pointed at the fence line. Support begins and ends there. She waved her clipboard. Enjoy the show. A glossy Bell 407 circled and dropped, kicking up husks. Cameras flashed, champagne clinked, a local influencer live-streamed elevated suburban living. After the photo ops, the pilot powered up. The rotors screamed, the skid started to slide, then fishtail, then spin. The helicopter slid off my runway and plowed into the corn, a tidy tantrum of dust and stalks. Screams. Evelyn dropped her flute. I jogged to the fence, schooling my face. Everyone okay? Rafa murmured, gravity just joined the HOA. Sirens, sheriff, fire, and 1 plain white SUV, FAA. A tall agent in aviators walked up. Property owner? Yes, sir. We'll need logs, deeds, and any footage. You'll have it all, I said. Evelyn snapped, we had authorization. The agent frowned. From whom? From the HOA, this is community property. He looked at me, then back at her. Ma'am, Mercer Field is a registered private-use airstrip under FAA jurisdiction. You're trespassing. Her jaw unhinged. My brother, your brother isn't the FAA, he said. The clips went viral by sunset, helicopter skidding, Evelyn's shriek, who made the runway slippery. Headlines wrote themselves. The next day, Agent Dana Lowell from the FAA returned with a team. On my porch I laid out deeds, certifications, timestamps, and the HOA invitation. You were thorough, she said. Old habits, I said. Down at the strip. They measured tire marks and property lines while Rafa walked them through the path into the corn. A beige sedan appeared, Evelyn, sunglasses the size of dinner plates. Why are you letting federal agents snoop around our community property? She demanded. Agent Dana Lowell crossed her arms. This is not community property, and the investigation is federal. We have documents. We've seen them, Lowell said. They're fraudulent. You altered county boundaries without authorization. Color drained from Evelyn's face. The FAA froze HOA aircraft events, and the county opened an inquiry. Her next move was predictable, a lawsuit. A pinstriped emissary arrived, threatening defamation claims. I hired Ava Monroe, a land use attorney with a farmer's patience. She flipped through my footage and FAA letters and smiled. She's walking into her own trap. Reporters asked how I felt. Relieved, I told Ridge County News. Property lines exist for a reason. In court, Judge Lila Benton took the bench with an iron-gray stare. Graham Pritchard, Evelyn's lawyer, tried a flourish. Mr. Mercer altered his runway to humiliate my client. The judge dry smiled. Embarrassment isn't typically actionable, counselor. Evelyn took the stand. My reputation was destroyed. He tampered with the runway. It was too slick to fly. Ava Monroe cued the projector. FAA ownership under Colin Mercer, dated 15 years before Brookstone Reserve existed. The amenity map, filed by Evelyn's brother, declared fraudulent. Then the money clip. The helicopter sliding, Evelyn screaming. Laughter rippled. Even the judge's mouth twitched. I testified, I documented trespassing, I maintained my runway, I used cameras, paperwork. And patience, legal tools, last I checked. Graham Pritchard lunged. You modified the runway, didn't you? I repaint safety lines and relevel surfaces like any responsible owner, I said. Ignoring signage isn't my fault. Judge Lila Benton tapped her pen. Case dismissed. Defendant's counterclaim granted. Mrs. Hart, you will reimburse legal fees and property damages. The gavel cracked like thunder. Rafa whispered, think she'll appeal? She's out of altitude, I said. 3 quiet months later, a black SUV rolled up. A trim man with a federal badge introduced himself as Marcus Hale. We dug into your original filing, Federal Auxiliary Access Zone 17B. Technically, your runway has long been an auxiliary emergency site. We'd like to retain you as local liaison, paid. I laughed. You're telling me Brookstone Reserve tried to turn a federal emergency strip into a brunch runway? Marcus Hale grinned. Poetic, isn't it? A week later. A letter arrived from the Department of Transportation naming me Federal Auxiliary Liaison, Site B-17, stipend included, all local use restricted to authorized federal operations only. Translation. Evelyn Hart couldn't step foot here again. Word spread. Folks in town started calling me Commander Mercer. I hated the nickname, but I kept the badge. Brookstone Reserve collapsed under fines, refunds, and resignations. The board forced Evelyn's exit, the DA opened investigations into forged records, her brother resigned from zoning. Last I heard, Evelyn Hart moved to Florida to try again. Somewhere with fresh fences. Maybe she'll finally learn which ones not to cross. One evening, a small federal trainer dropped in, touched down perfectly on the asphalt that caused so much chaos. Then lifted into the orange sky. Quiet. Clean. The way it's supposed to be. I raised a glass to the horizon. Here's to staying grounded. Boundaries aren't just fences and maps, they're the lines between respect and entitlement. Evelyn Hart thought she could build prestige on someone else's foundation. But arrogance always lands hard. Justice doesn't always roar, sometimes it touches down soft, leaves the runway silent, and never takes off again.